So my name is Yakal Gonzalez. I work with Entera Health as a pharmaceutical rep. I cover the East Atlanta territory. I started back in December, and I first hit the territory in January, where I got to meet Dawn and Dr. Robbins over here, who kind of took me under their wing and taught me a lot, and I've learned a lot of stuff other than just what our product has to offer as well. So I'm here to represent Enteragam. Enteragam is a prescription medical food. You see it here. It comes in these boxes, has 30 packets in it, and like Dawn said, it is a powder. It mixes into liquid very easily. We recommend 8 ounces of liquid, but you can mix it into a sports beverage, not just water. Also juices or even soft foods such as yogurt and applesauce. So what we're going to cover today is what a medical food is, because medical food is a separate category. So you have your supplements, you have drugs, and then medical foods, which kind of falls in between the two. And I'll kind of go over what that looks like. So what is Enteragam? How does it work? And then, of course, we'll have discussions in case anybody has any questions for me. So medical foods, you can see here, they have the 3 different categories. Your first one is your dietary supplements, followed by your medical foods, which is highlighted, and then your FDA-approved drugs. So the difference with a supplement and a medical foods do require proof of efficacy. They do go in front of a toxicology board where they receive their safety designation. The safety designation that they have is known as GRAS. It's generally recognized as safe. It's the same safety designation as the food you buy at the grocery store. So it is a very, very safe product. The ingredients of Enteragam, they're listed up here, about 90% of proteins. 60% of that is immunoglobulins or antibodies. Out of the immunoglobulins, about 50% is IgG, so that's going to really help your immune system. So like Dawn was talking about with your intestinal disorders and a lot of the side effects from Mestinon, and so our intended uses in like irritable bowel syndrome, predominant diarrhea, as well as inflammatory bowel disease and HIV and neuropathy. But a lot of what you see going on, and Dr. Robbins will talk on leaky gut a little bit as well, that has a couple of different names, your intestinal disorders, enteropathy, leaky gut, it all kind of falls under the same thing. But what's going on there is those bacteria are able to penetrate the epithelial lining of your intestines. So it gets down in there, and of course it's going to be sampled, and it's going to be known as a foreign antigen. When that happens, it actually causes inflammation, releases those pro-inflammatory cytokines. The resulting inflammation is going to destroy those tight junction proteins and break down that epithelial lining. So that's basically your defense wall as you speak. And it's an endless cycle, just goes on and on and on. So Enteragam, what it does, it actually binds to microbial components. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't have to be this close. So Enteragam actually binds to microbial components. It helps maintain the GI immune balance, managing gut barrier function, and also improves nutrient utilization. And what that looks like, so we saw the enteropathy cycle or leaky gut with the bacteria being able to penetrate. So Enteragam is an immunoglobulin that binds to those. It's too large to pass through the epithelial layer by itself. So when it binds to those foreign bacteria, it makes them too large as well and prevents them from passing and getting into your gut. It's known as steric exclusion. So what happens there, it breaks that cycle of leaky gut, keeps that bad bacteria out, and it counteracts your inflammation with your anti-inflammatory cytokines. And it actually allows your tight junction proteins and epithelial layer to rebuild. So like I said earlier, our intended use of Enteragam is in diarrhea predominant irritable bowel syndrome, as well as inflammatory bowel disease and HIV and neuropathy. It does require a prescription, so it has to be used under physician supervision. So these are just a couple of examples of how it can be explained to patients, because I know the science or scientific terminology can be a little rough, and I didn't understand it at all last year before I started this. And so it's been a work in progress just trying to figure out what these words mean and everything like that. So these are kind of the examples of which you can kind of look at and see what Enteragam is, more in, I guess, my language.
Our language.
Yeah. Did anybody want me to leave this up, or are you good? Good.
Can you mix that in a smoothie?
You can. So you cannot blend it, so you can stir it in afterwards. So yeah, if you blend it, the blender causes air bubbles. The air bubbles will destroy the proteins. Same with the shaker cup. If you shake it, it causes air bubbles. It'll destroy the proteins. Cannot mix it into a carbonated beverage because, once again, it has the carbonation, the air bubbles. So I actually had a nurse that asked me if she could mix it in wine. There's no harm in doing it. You can't mix it in beer, but you can do it in wine. Yeah, no champagne either.
And no hot beverages.
Yeah, you can't mix it into a boiling hot beverage or a freezing cold. So warm to cool is fine. Room temperature is preferable.
I saw it has the whatever.
Immunoglobulins?
Yeah, that. So is this kind of like like IVIG that you can eat?
It is. So a little bit different. So the IVIG goes straight into your bloodstream. This is an immunoglobulin like IVIG. However, it's taken orally and it's not absorbed systemically, so it gets into your colon and your intestines.
Okay.
You're welcome. Very good question.
I'm curious, does it also, well, the symptoms that it treats, would a side effect be like gas?
No, so one of the side effects that it actually helps.
From taking it, would it help with?
Yes, so it's to help manage diarrhea, abdominal pain, gas. That's a phenomenal question. I actually had a physician explain it to me because of course I understood how Interrogam works, but I never really understood the correlation between, I guess, abdominal pain, gas, and Interrogam. So a physician actually has IBSU, or irritable bowel syndrome undefined, which is mainly bloating and abdominal pain. And he explained, and he used it, and this is the first thing that worked in him. He said the reason it works so well is because gas and abdominal pain is caused by those foreign bacteria getting into the gut, releasing gases. If Interrogam binds to those bacteria, preventing them from getting in the gut, it doesn't have the option to release those gases, which helps prevent the abdominal pain and bloating. So excellent question. Yes?
What's the difference between this and a probiotic?
So probiotics are basically good bacteria that help counteract the bad bacteria. Immunoglobulins Interrogam is an immunoglobulin that just binds to bad bacteria. It doesn't have any effect on probiotics. It doesn't mess with any good bacteria. So it's wonderful to use together. I have a lot of physicians that like to use them together just to kind of work with one another. Great question.
Immunoglobulin, is that a human byproduct? Where does that come from?
So Interrogam is derived from bovine, so cows. So
I didn't see that, but I did.
Yeah, it's serum derived from bovine, so it is basically cow immunoglobulins. And it's taken straight from the serum, and then it goes through a very stringent process. So it is a very clean product.
Is there a reason why it's from that animal particular? Like, I mean, it's just kind of, I'd rather it from a human. But, I don't know.
Honestly, I don't. So the cows, the way Interrogam was formed, cows are slaughtered every day for beef. So there was a lot of products that were being wasted. And so LGI, the Lauridsen Group Incorporated, is the ones that have created Interrogam. It's a family-owned company, the Lauridsen family. And they saw these products being wasted, and they figured that there has to be some kind of use for it because it was just the blood was going into the rivers and everything else just to get rid of it. And so they basically pulled the immunoglobulins from the blood. They turned it into a spray-dried plasma that they fed to early weaned piglets. So these piglets were taken away from their mothers very early. They weren't getting the nutrients they needed, so they were never growing to full size or getting that bright pink color. So when they started giving them that spray-dried plasma, they started seeing the piglets getting the nutrients they needed. They were growing to full size. They were getting that nice bright pink color as well. So they saw the nutrient absorption helping there as well. And pigs have a very similar GI system to humans, so they figured if it works in pigs, then there might be something to humans as well. And years of research and development, they came out with Interrogam, and now it's available for humans. Yes, sir?
How does it differentiate between a good bacteria and a bad bacteria?
That is an excellent question. So I'm a visual person, so I have to think about it this way. So think about the cows that stand in the pasture. They eat where they poop and everything else. They're exposed to bacteria on a daily basis. So they build up an immune system to these certain bacteria. They're stored in the immunologic memory of the acquired immune system. So it's basically like the immunoglobulin has its little brain or memory card that stores these bacteria that the cows have grown immune to. Now we're taking that immune system, putting it into our bodies so it knows to specifically bind to just those toxins. And I have a long list of toxins of what it binds to if you'd like to see that. Yes?
about the safety issues and also like the trials. And my question is, like, I know you do some clinical testing with medical foods. How does that differ from the type of clinical trials they do on medications, for example?
Yeah, great question. So medical foods, like I showed you earlier, they go through the toxicology board, so they receive a very high safety designation. It's actually the highest safety designation. So they're not required to have clinical or phase 1, 2, and 3 clinical trials. However, they did want to have some clinical trials to prove efficacy, so it's not quite as large as a FDA-approved drug. Because for the most part, your clinical trials are to prove safety and make sure they're not going to kill somebody or something. But with Interrogam going in front of the toxicology board, receiving the highest safety designation, the same safety designation as the food you get at the grocery store, they're not required to go through those same trials. So that's where it kind of differs.
How much dextrose is in it?
5 grams. Just 5 grams.
Any other sugars?
No, just 5 grams of dextrose and then trace amounts of sunflower lecithin, and that's it. It's a very, very clean product.
You know, with MG, you don't want your immune system to be boosted because you're trying to do the opposite. Is this gonna make it stronger so that your MG is worse?
Honestly, I don't have a question for you because I don't understand MG enough. I'm going to leave that one for Dr. Lisa Robbins. She can probably touch on that a little bit more. She's
Yeah, I think I can answer that. Have you had IVIG or DO?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, as he said, it's just like IVIG, except instead of being
Instead of IV?
an IV, you ingest it.
Yeah, but you can have that every day.
Right. You don't get
Because
IVIG every
you're
day.
immune, you don't have IVIG every day. You don't want to boost your immune
Good
system.
point.
You
How
give it for
often
a
do you take
limited
something?
amount of time
this is taken once a day.
until you have another attack.
So it's like a lower potency?
That's a good point.
Yeah. So
We'll talk about
yeah,
it.
the difference between IVIG and this product. So IVIG is put directly into the bloodstream, whereas Interrogam is taken orally. It goes through your GI tract. It goes into your intestines. It goes into your colon, and anything left over is excreted in your feces. So it doesn't deal with the bloodstream. So it does not have an effect on your IG counts, basically. So it shouldn't increase your IgG levels. It shouldn't increase your IgA or IgM levels either.
How is this given? Is it given by body weight or is it given by just some kind of formula?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's a powder that comes in individual packets. There's 30 packets in a box. The recommended starting dose is 2 packets a day for the first 2 weeks, and then going to 1 packet a day after that. So that's what we typically recommend in irritable bowel patients, as whereas inflammatory bowel disease is typically a little more severe. So depending on how severe their case may be, we do recommend 3, maybe even 4 packets a day. So Dr. Feuerstadt, he's a director of the fecal transplant program in Yale, and he goes by the rule of 5, where every 5 bowel movements that they're having a day, he gives them a packet. So 1 to 5 bowel movements is 1 packet, 6 to 10 is 2 packets, 11 to 15 is 3, and so on. So in your younger patients, in your pediatrics, we do recommend starting at 1 packet, even maybe half a packet, depending on how young they are. So we have an indication in pediatrics as young as 2 years old. We have studies as young as 6 months old. And I actually have a pediatric GI who put a 4-month-old on Interrogam. So really the worst thing that can happen is they might get a little constipated. And if that happens, of course, you can cut back dosing, and it's very simple to use. Yes. One of our indications is in IBD, and Crohn's falls under IBD, so we've had a lot of success in Crohn's.
What doctor would know how to prescribe this? Your neurologist?
Typically, your gastroenterologist, as well as internal medicine, integrative physicians. Dr. Robbins is very, very familiar with the product as well. But typically, your gastroenterologist or internal medicine or integrative. No, that's references. So that's any other questions? We went over the safety of it. Yes.
It's back to the gas. So is gas bad? I mean, I know that's kind of a silly question, but, because you said it, I'm sorry?
It can be problematic. It can cause that abdominal pain.
I'm
And
wondering like if it's a symptom of something bigger going on.
it could be because once again, it's caused by that bacteria getting into your gut and releasing the gases.
So I don't know what would be considered excessive gas.
We can talk about that.
I was gonna say yes. So Dr. Robbins is going to talk a lot more on the leaky gut, which is kind of where that gas comes from as well. So as far as the safety profile, the only side effects, the only known side effects is 2 to 5%. Headache, abdominal pain, nausea, constipation, and increased urination. But like I said, it's about 2 to 5%, which is very similar to a placebo. So it has a very, very low side effect profile. The only contraindication is beef allergy, since it is a beef protein. And this product, yes.
What's the cost and is it covered by insurance?
Yes, absolutely, great question. So right before I answer that question, I'm going to finish up what so and this will only take a second. So Interrogam is gluten, dye, whey, soy, and whey free, lactose free. Yeah, so it is a very, very safe product. Pretty much anybody can take it other than your beef allergies. As far as cost and affordability, with it being a medical food, a lot of insurances do not cover it just because it kind of falls in that unknown category of medical foods that a lot of people haven't heard of. So with that being said, we have partnered with Foundation Care, which is a specialty mail order pharmacy out of Missouri, and we set up a patient assistance program. So the retail cost of the box is $524. So that's the retail cost. That's why we set up this patient assistance program. I have to scare you first so you don't go that route. So through Foundation Care, it's $59 per box. That's for your cash patients with no insurance. If you do have commercial insurance, if they cover it, you just pay the copay. And for your commercially covered, there's also programs set up in place online. If you go to interrogam.com, it's paid no more than $25 per box. If you do have commercial insurance that does not cover it, it goes back to the $59 to our patient assistance program. Medicaid is only $5 for shipping and handling, and Medicare is $59 as well.
So who are your competitors?
Really, there's no product like this, but if you're talking about in the irritable bowel area, Xifaxan is indicated for irritable bowel syndrome, as well as Viberzi. And then there's a couple others like IBGuard, of course, probiotics, and some of those. But as far as FDA-approved drugs, the only things that I'm aware of in your IBS category are Xifaxan and Viberzi.
So are you a salesman or are you a doctor?
I'm a pharmaceutical rep.
Okay.
Yeah, so I get to visit doctors and they get to educate me. Yes?
Would my internist likely have a foggy idea of what you're talking about in terms of medicines, your medicines?
Who is your internist?
Dr. Van?
Is he internal medicine?
Yes.
He might. We do call on some internal medicine. Our main focus originally was gastroenterology because, of course, this indication is in irritable bowel syndrome and inflammatory bowel disease. We have started going towards internal medicine because, of course, they see a lot of those conditions as well in integrative. So I don't know if him particular would.
But he has to write a prescription, correct?
Correct. Yes. And of course, if he has any questions, he can look up Interrogam. There's a website on there with all of our studies as well. All of our studies and case series have been put on the website interrogam.com. There's even a tab for the physicians. So there's a patient and a physician portal. So there's two different ones where he can kind of do some research. My business card is over on the table. You're more than welcome to give it to him. I'll give him all the information he'd like. I'll even talk with him in person if he wants. So.
How long after you start taking it will you start seeing any difference?
Great question. So the typical onset of action is 2 to 4 weeks, but everybody is different. In our studies, we've seen patients respond within as little as 48 hours, and then others it's taken up to 8 weeks for them to respond. So it depends on what's going on in their gut and how severe their symptoms are, and kind of the dosing as well. To harp on the onset of action, as far as how long you have to take the product. So we typically recommend no less than 3 months because, of course, there's a lot going on in your gut. our studies have shown that there's continued improvements over 10 to 12 weeks. So once again, it's not masking a symptom. Of course, your symptoms might go away, but and Dr. Robbins will talk on leaky gut. So there's a lot going on as far as the bacteria still getting in. You need to restore that gut back to homeostasis or back to normal. So there's a lot of that. So we've had patients come off after a single box of Interrogam and said that their symptoms were completely gone and they were fine. And then others, in most of our studies, about 75% of the patients that come off do have a relapse in symptoms. But of course, once they get right back on, it takes care of it again. Any other questions?
I'm sorry, ladies first. Just a little clarification. Neurologist typically treats me for Myasthenia Gravis. She prescribes Mestinon. She knows what Mestinon does to your gut. Would she not be the likely person instead of the internist to talk about a prescription for this medicine?
Yes and no. Me and you think yes. However, as far as rules, guidelines by the FDA, because we are regulated by the FDA, we cannot sell the product off-label. So its indication is in irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease, and HIV neuropathy. However, if your physician wants to prescribe it in an off-label area, they're more than welcome to. There's no harm in doing that. It's just I cannot promote it in that area. And that's why I was here to kind of introduce what Interrogam is. Dr. Robbins wants to talk about her areas of use in it. And if it was up to me, I'd love to talk to absolutely every physician available. But yes, there's no drug-to-drug interactions whatsoever, so you can use it alongside anything. So it is very, 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 very safe to use. No food-to-drug interactions either. And I mean, as far as taking it, usually recommend every 12 hours. So if you're on 2 packets a day, you could take 1 in the morning and then 1 in the evening. If you're on 1 packet a day, you could take half in the morning, half in the evening. Me and my wife both take it. I just take 1 in the morning and that's it. And same with her. So she uses it for her abdominal pain and bloating, and she's had great success with that. I take it just because of what it does and helps restore that gut and keeps the bad bacteria out.
How many packets come in a box?
30 packets. So if you're taking 1 a day, you have a month's supply in a box. And Foundation Care is absolutely phenomenal. They'll call you towards the end of your month supply and to see if you need a refill. And if you say, hey, I still got some, I didn't take all of it yet, you can say, call me back in 2 weeks. They'll follow up with you to make sure that you're taken care of. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Well, I greatly appreciate your time. If you have any questions, I will be here through the rest of the program. Again, I have some information set up over there, a couple of studies and case series as far as reviews. And then, of course, my business card is there, and you can reach out to me. Also, in the back, there is a sign-in roster for lunch. My company holds me accountable since I provided lunch. They don't want me to buy food for 60 people, and there's only 5 or 6 names. They think I took it to a party or something. So, if you haven't signed in, please do so. Yes.
How many people were in your case study?
So in our first clinical study in IBSD, it was 66 patients. In our first HIV clinical study, it started as 6 patients. It's up to 103 now. It's still ongoing. They have the results, but they just keep adding patients to that study. We have over 600 observations total, though.
And have you checked all these drugs that these people are on?
As far as we have not. So we haven't done any studies as far as Myasthenia gravis or Mestinon. So Dawn presented this to me a couple of months ago, and of course I got really excited about it because there's no drug-to-drug interactions with Interrogam, and I know Interrogam helps the gut or the intestinal disorders. We don't have any studies in Myasthenia gravis right now. They're focusing mainly on inflammatory bowel disease, irritable bowel syndrome, and HIV neuropathy. In the future, they might be going off in different directions because they are starting to find a lot of other uses in different areas, but currently their main focus is in IBSD, IBD, and HIV neuropathy. Did that answer your question? Perfect. Any others? All right, well, thank you so much for your time. Like I said, I'll be here through the rest of today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be sitting here, and of course, I'll be having lunch with you guys as well. Yes.
I was reading in your pamphlet here, it says, improve stool consistency, so would it be used for people that have chronic constipation or not?
No, so it's for the diarrhea. The reason being it helps with nutrient absorption and fluid absorption. So in your diarrhea patients, if the fluid is absorbed, it kind of forms those stools. But if you're already constipated, if it takes out more fluid, then of course it's going to make you more constipated. We have seen some physicians using it in constipation in a low dose to help with like the abdominal pain and the bloating. But as far as to help with the bowel movements and constipation, I don't know if we don't have any studies there. We have a couple physicians that'll say it does, but I don't know personally.
My name is Millicent Holliday. I come from South Africa. I'm a registered nurse. I did my training in South Africa and then rewrote the state boards here in the United States. I've lived in this country 30 plus years. And initially, when I went into the medical field, I felt it was my life's calling, and I still feel it's my life's calling. Is that better? I feel very privileged to work in the field that I work in. I love my work, and I have been blessed to help many, many people through the years. For the past 20 years, I have worked in the field of naturopathy, working more with homeopathic supplements and nutritional supplements and herbal botanicals. What got me into the field of natural medicine or complementary medicine is the longer I stayed working in a hospital environment, the more I saw that the sickest people were the ones taking the most medication. And we would call them frequent flyers, because they would just keep coming back and back and back. I did my nursing training in South Africa in the 70s. Big hospital, over 1,000-bed hospital. We did not have a dialysis unit. Kidney failure in the 70s was so rare. There were 2 hospitals in the whole country of South Africa, because the only people being dialyzed were people with genetic defects and cocaine addicts. That was it. Then I came here to the States. I worked in a very small 180-bed hospital called Dunwoody Medical Center, right up in Dunwoody. In that small hospital, we had a dialysis unit, and it was full all the time. I worked in the UK. We didn't have dialysis units in this huge big hospital in London. We didn't have a dialysis unit. This was in the 70s, 80s, late 70s and 80s. So then here in the States, I'm finding, wow, what's going on? Why are people here being dialyzed when in the UK and South Africa, they weren't being dialyzed. They didn't need it. They weren't going into kidney failure. So I started, while I was working in the hospital, to do a little research as to who was being dialyzed. And it was the people who were taking the most medications. And it was the people who were on blood pressure medication long term, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. It was the people who were on diabetic medications long term, congestive heart failure, routine medications that I was very familiar with. So I looked at the side effects of those medications. And what I found is they would say things like swelling of the ankles. Now, the average person is not going to think that swelling of the ankles relates to kidney failure, but it does. Or skin rash was another one that showed up. The average person is not going to think that skin rash means that the kidneys are not functioning properly. In Chinese medicine, your skin is your third kidney. So if the body excretes, it excretes through the skin. So I really began to realize that this life's calling that I was answering, that I needed to find another outlet for it. And so I looked into maybe becoming a massage therapist or doing home health nursing, and all sorts of ideas were going through my head. And friends of mine introduced me to this technology that I'm going to show you today. And I haven't ever looked back. So the technology is called electroacupuncture according to Voll. Dr. Voll was a German doctor back in the 50s who was an acupuncturist. He had studied acupuncture for 30 years. Anything you do for 30 years, I've learned, because I've been doing it, you know something about it if you've been doing it a long time. There's great value to doing something over and over and over and over again and seeing the patterns that develop with different person. Then you see it with another one and another one and another one. It really solidifies, what you can then offer to somebody else, and you've got starting points yourself. So Dr. Voll knew acupuncture, he knew medicine. And he started to experiment with an ohm meter. You know what an ohm meter does? An ohm meter measures energy. Okay, so it measures electrical output. Essentially, this technology is it's like an EEG. What does an EEG or an EKG do? We do them all the time. Funny how we never ask questions. What's going on here? But what's an EKG? Electrocardiograph? It's measuring the energetic conductivity of your heart. And you get a little beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop. And you can see if it goes up too high, you've maybe got some AFib, or if it's, AFib's more like this, isn't it? But you can tell, or a doctor can tell very, very quickly what's going on in your heart based on the graph that it gives you. And if a person's had a myocardial infarction, or if they got, aberrant wave activity. Same with an EEG. You're looking at the energetic conductivity of the brain. Well, the Chinese know that there is energetic conductivity to every single organ system of the body. How they figured it out, I don't know, but they did. And when you go and get traditional acupuncture, the acupuncturist is sticking a needle into a very specific point. Well, the technology that I'm going to demonstrate today is using the acupuncture system of the body to read the body, to read the various organ systems of the body. Dr. Voll found that irrespective of age, color, creed, the balance point of a healthy organ system should be at 50. If the reading, and I'll demonstrate this to you, if the reading goes above a balanced reading was in the 50-60 range. If the reading goes above the 60 range, it gives indication of inflammation. Now remember, this was back in the 50s. He knew that inflammation was bad, that it gave indication of something going wrong in the body. So with this EAV technology, it's also called bioenergetic life energy assessment. And that's the phrase I use, bioenergetic assessment. doesn't matter, it can also be called electrodermal screening, because you're working on the skin. Okay, it's very technical. Question?
Need a guinea pig?
Well, I tell you what, this up there, I've never used before. So this, my old technology, you know, Windows 8 made a mess of everything. So my old technology wouldn't work on this computer. This is a Windows 8 computer. So thankfully, I thought ahead just a little bit and bought the new one, which I've never used before. So I'm going to have to learn this with you. So you guys are the very, very first to see this. It's very cool. Anyway, so I may need a guinea pig, but I'm going to just kind of wade through this on my own for a little to give you a feel, okay? Okay. So, you have a ground. Get that back. You have a ground here. So this grounds your energy. So whoever is holding this ground, I am reading their energy field. Without it, nothing works, okay? You see how that goes up high?
On the bottom.
What I just did there, see I'm holding a ground in either hand, and you see it hits up right up into the high 80s. That is telling me just that one test gives you an incredible amount of information about the health of the person. Just that one test. Because in that one test, you're checking the energetic conductivity in the person. If the reading sits down, you know, in the purple zone, you'd almost have to say to that person, go home, go drink lots of water, take a whole bunch of minerals, because it's minerals that allow energy to move through the body, and come back 2 weeks later, because they wouldn't be readable. It's very cool. Okay. So that's just a little test. So let's see. All right. Now, this little point is reading my lymphatic system. What does our lymphatic system do? Do we know? It's part of the immune system. Very, very important part of the immune system. Toxins move from your cells to your lymph to the blood. So if your lymphatic system isn't working properly, then your body can really never move toxins out of the cells. And Dr. Robbins, refresh my memory. How many pints of lymph do we have? Something like 22 pints of lymph in the body? In an adult body, 22 pints. How many pints of blood do you have? 8. So the lymphatic system is a very, very important system. So I'm looking at my reading here. I'm showing a bit of inflammation on my lymphatic system. Now, there are many, many things that can indicate, you know, but we'll keep going. So we can look at lymph drainage of the jaw. Now, you see that sits in the yellow. So that's not a big deal because it's so close to that normal range. But if somebody had TMJ issues, we could detect it right there. Or if they had major dental issues, we could detect it right there.
What's TMJ?
Transmandibular joint, you know. So here we are looking at the lung. Also not too bad. Now, if a person had asthma, you could look more. You see where it says branch? I can branch up this point, and I can look at the parenchyma of the lung. Very nice. At the mediastinal plexus. Very nice. Or, I use this one a lot because I see a lot of children with asthma. Mine look beautiful. The bronchioles. Okay? Asthma is a condition of the bronchioles. In children with asthma, this reading goes way, way, way up high. You know? If I can restore balance to a reading that is showing extreme inflammation, it is hugely beneficial to that person. And this is how we can determine the right protocol. I'm going to move on a little quickly here. Okay. So we can check the large intestine. Let's look at that. Oh, look at that. I could branch off that point, and I could look at the transverse colon. I could look at the lymph vessels of the cecum. I could look at the peritoneum. I could look at the right flexure of the colon. When I'm reading on this right hand, you're looking at the right side of the body. When you move to the other hand, you're looking at the left side of the body. When we go to the feet, we're looking at different organ systems. So every point relates to a different system. If I just do this, oh, I hit an acupuncture, but I got good conductivity. Mostly, if you hit like that, nothing happens. But if you hit that acupuncture point, you get a reading. The galvanic skin response anywhere in the body is different from the acupuncture point. So this acupuncture point is like a very specific little pathway that allows us to access the energy. This thing is an ohm meter. It's just reading the energy. Fortunately, it transmits the energy to the computer, and the computer gives us the graph, and we can store the data, share the data, send it to clients, send it to doctors. So great, great technology. Let's move along. We can look at the central nervous system. Now, this amazes me because the Chinese have been working with acupuncture for 5,000 plus years. Look at that. The large intestine and the central nervous system is on the same finger. There was a gut-brain connection even back in those days. Same finger, your large intestine and your central nervous system. We know that if the gut is compromised, the brain is going to be compromised. And believe me, 40 years in the health arena, I know Dr. Robbins can attest to this as well, we have made a mess of our gut and our brains. That's pretty much what we're working with chronically nowadays is gut-brain issues. Because if the gut is compromised, and the product that we just heard about, that sounds like a pretty exciting product to me because I see so many, many, many people with gut issues. And a product that is not toxic is such a blessing. And I know I'm so excited that Dr. Robbins will be speaking to all of you because to me, she's the doctor of the now and a doctor of the future. All doctors are going to be trained like Dr. Robbins is trained in the not too distant future because we cannot indiscriminately put things in our bodies and expect our bodies to deal with them. Our bodies are not invincible. We have to work sensibly with what is going on in the human body. And and really do no harm. Yeah, I took an oath to do no harm. I don't know if we still do that. Do we all take oaths still when we graduate to do no harm? So I love the arena of like homeopathy because it's so safe. Okay, just moving on. So we can look at the central nervous system. We can look at the circulatory system. We can look at the allergy meridian, which is on this finger. And this is where, if we were looking at food sensitivities, you know, we spoke of lactose, going lactose-free or casein-free. More and more and more, I see people, casein and glucose intolerant. Not glucose, gluten intolerant. And we've made a mess of the gut. And I could talk, you know, for the next 48 hours just about what we've done to the human gut. I would recommend that anybody who has gut issues goes gluten-free. And I would also very much recommend that they eat organic as much as possible. Because if you don't eat organic, you are absorbing a huge amount of pesticides, to say nothing of antibiotics, both of which compromise the intestinal microflora. So we can go in with this technology and we can look at food sensitivities. You can really quickly determine whether a person is gluten sensitive. And sometimes people will be gluten sensitive, but they can have oats. They can't have wheat. You know, so this technology kind of helps you navigate those nuances. We can look at cellular metabolism on the red point highlighted, the endocrine system, here the thyroid thymus. And this is where Dawn was saying when she did this, through this technology, she was able to determine way, way, way before anybody even knew that she had myasthenia gravis. She was able to detect it on this point because it showed a low reading, would have been my guess. Let's check mine. Oh, it's here. I'm just in good shape. But it could look, and I'm going to make this. Was yours in good shape too? No? Come up here, let me test yours, Dawn. Let me give you some water on this hand, and you give me this hand.
And that would be because I don't have a thymus.
See the difference? So this one is showing degeneration on that point because it is such a low reading. So degeneration gives indication of a more chronic situation. You know, if the reading goes up way high, it gives indication of inflammation. If it sits in the middle, thank you, Dawn, for that. If it sits in the middle here, it's a good reading. So this new technology is kind of really cool because it prints it all out. You know, so you say red, oh, bad. Green, good. Purple, you know, you need quite a bit of help. But the great thing is it's a baseline. So you can then have a person do a protocol for, couple of months, have them come back and you check again, and it shows you the previous reading, and you can go, oh, that's better, that's better, that's better. So it's a lot of fun. So thyroid, thymus, then we can go down and look at the adrenals, we can look at the heart meridian. Now, my dream for the future with this technology is that it becomes commonplace in every doctor's office, because it gives us a huge amount of information in an hour. Enormous amount of information in an hour. Look at if I branch off this heart meridian. Can you imagine working with a cardiologist where I can just go look at the pulmonary valve, look at the subendocardial lymph, the cardiac plexus, the myocardial lymph? There's no way ever to analyze myocardial lymph in modern medicine. Just no way. You know, we're not even thinking that. The endocardium, it's not going. It's not. Okay, endocardium, pericardium. You know, you can evaluate those linings of the heart. You can determine if there's inflammation. You can find out what's causing the inflammation in an hour. And that's incredibly important if you're working with a doctor who understands what they're looking at. So my goal is to educate as many doctors. You know, when I first started doing this 20 years ago, there weren't this many doctors in Atlanta who understood this technology. Now, we've maybe got 60 odd. You know, that's a lot. So we are seeing medicine transformed, and it's the joy of my life, really, is to begin to see medicine beginning to incorporate the very ancient forms of medicine that preceded anything we have today. Like homeopathy goes back centuries. Many, many centuries. And the premise of homeopathy is with less, you can do more. Well, our modern thinking is with more, you can do more. But more and more we are realizing that the body is so finely tuned that you can just give it a gentle touch and it performs miracles. And I see those miracles every day. Okay, so we could pretty much run through the whole heart meridian. Okay. The small intestine, you could branch up the whole small intestine, see what's going on there. On this left hand, you have the same points. On the, and then we move to the feet. On the pancreas, this is the pancreas CMP. I don't know if you can see this, but that says CMP. The CMP is like the junction box for the whole meridian pathway. So off that junction box, you can look at protein metabolism. Now, somebody was asking why we have gas. Well, we have gas for a number of reasons. If you are not digesting your proteins, they putrefy. And if they putrefy, you're going to have gas. If you are not digesting your carbohydrates, they ferment. If you have fermentation in your stomach, you're going to have gas. We can, right here, evaluate protein metabolism. We can evaluate carbohydrate metabolism. We can evaluate fat metabolism. Again, that is incredibly valuable information. All you need to do there is take some digestive enzymes or some HCl, you know, and you can help your body. So I always just think of the fermentation process, and people, their bellies are out here. You know, that's fermentation. They're making beer in their guts. Liver point, we get so used to a word. Think of the word liver. Now, can we live without a liver? It's one of those you cannot live without. A healthy liver, you got a healthy body. So I work with the liver a lot with helping the body to detoxify liver. And if you detoxify the liver, your hormones are going to work better. digestion's going to work better, cholesterol's going to be better. You know, so many things are going to be better if liver is better. We can look at joints. We can look at if you get a lot of inflammation on the joints, we can look at synovial membrane. What's the synovial membrane? Do we know? Synovial membrane, it's this little membrane and it's filled with fluid. And people with rheumatoid arthritis, they just have bone on bone. So you can evaluate these things before they get to a point of rheumatoid arthritis. Find some right supplements for the person to take. Make sure that that inflammation is going down. Isolate what the cause is of the inflammation. In modern medicine, we tend to treat symptoms. Why does a person get myasthenia gravis?
Bad luck.
It is bad luck.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. But there is a reason. There is a reason why you randomly would get MG. I know what I've seen through the years. And you also got to check. Do we know what sometimes causes MG, that we know of in modern medicine? Some cancer treatments, yes. Also some vaccines, known cause of MG.
Flu shot.
Flu shot, it says it there in the literature. Now what is happening? What is a flu shot?
It's the flu.
And what is the flu? It's a virus. Okay? We've got to ask why. We've got to be like 2-year-olds. Why? 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 We have to ask why in this day and age, and get answers. Because that's how we get better. Because the body can heal. I do not believe that the body ever randomly attacks itself for no reason. There is always a reason. Your body is smarter than that. It knows there's something there and it activates an immune response to try and find it. And it's like a war machine. You want to find the quintessential war machine? Go study your immune system, because it is the quintessential war machine. It is a miracle personified. It's got a really, really, really tough job today. We've got ISIS running all over our bodies, blowing things up. We got a mess going on there. We have the opportunity to reverse that. Okay, so with this technology, we can find the areas in the body that are the most stressed, the most inflamed, or the most degenerative. Then we are able to go in and isolate what the cause is. Let's see if I can figure that out. Okay. So, say I said the liver meridian was the most inflamed organ system in my body. I could then go in and determine cause. When you're working with this technology, you're working with electrical impedance. You're reading energy. So if the reading goes up high, so this is testing allergies. You see how that allergies is highlighted up there? It says, no, I don't have allergies. Do I have any biological toxins? You see how that catches in that 50? It says, yes, I have some biological toxins. What are biological toxins? Funguses, bacteria, parasites, viruses. So I have some kind of biological toxin in my body. Now I could go in and I can look and see what biological toxins.
Is this news to you? Are you discovering?
It's news to me, yes. We all have biological toxins. Okay, let me see. So now I've branched off and I'm looking to see, do I have biological poisons, fungus, germ warfare, parasites, vaccines, viruses? Crazy, we live in a world where we got to ask, is there germ warfare? Okay, so I'm going to ask, do I have any bacteria? I'm putting a little water on the point because, you know, water conducts energy or electricity. Okay, I don't have bacteria. Do I have biological poisons? Oh, thankfully I don't. You see this? I have a fungus. I'm going to go and check some more. Germ warfare. No germ warfare. Oh, thank goodness, no parasites. No vaccine issues. And no viruses. So I say I've got a fungus. So now I want to go and see if I can isolate what the fungus is. Okay. Now, there are a bunch of critters living in our bodies and on this planet, a whole universe of them. This kind of gives you a little window into just how many there are. So I'm going to check this whole group because we'd be here all day. Okay, and if it goes up high, it's not an issue. Is it bad mold, aspergillus? No, it's not. No. Now you see how that one catches? So it says, ah, there's something there. Go one by one and find it. Is it a blastomycosis? Blastoschistomyces? I use these as swear words. Can you imagine calling, you blastoschistomyces, you, you little piece of fungus. Not a botrytis, a catasporium, no, there it is. There's a little song that goes, oh, Candida, a little sugar to feed her, my growing bowel, Candida. I'd go on, but it's pretty gross. Okay, so I just isolated on myself a Candida. You know, do we know what Candida is? Yeast. Where do we find Candida a lot? Sugar. Wheat. You know, it amazes me. People don't understand that carbohydrates turn into what? Sugar. So if you're eating all your grains, what do they turn into? Sugar. You know, and not to say that grains aren't good. Grains are good. But if you've got Candida, you don't want to be eating too many of them. Okay. Now, there is another nuance to this technology that I could show you as well, because you can then go and see how deep this is in the tissues of your body. And we can get a baseline. And I can put you on, what would we use to treat Candida? Or a probiotic. Yes. Yeah. Candida, you know, the leaky gut. We could use Interrogram. That's what I was just going to say. If anybody has leaky gut, they could have Candida, compromising the intestinal wall. If you have a compromised intestinal wall, you are going to have an autoimmune condition eventually, at some stage. And it may be different. It may not be MG. It may be Crohn's. It may be autism. It may be fibromyalgia. So we all have like diathesis stresses, areas in our body that are most prone to become weak. And it could be because of genetics, it could be because of environment. So this technology allows us, so I'm saying, okay, I've got a candida. What am I going to do about this candida? So I'm going to go and see if I can find something to address this. Okay, let's see. Okay. As I said, this is the first time I've actually looked at this technology. Okay, so here are some probiotics that I could take. Let's just go run through them. So I don't need acidophilus. Bifidum, no. Not that one. Not that one. No, so I don't need any. But that one looks as though I do need it, okay? And also so if I took a probiotic, I would want to find one with a Streptococcus faecium in it, you know, because that's the one that is showing that it would be most beneficial to my body. And so this is really how you can determine what works best rather than just guessing, rather than just one size fits all. You can find the very specific requirements of the individual. I know that we've actually covered a lot of territory. I appreciate you all staying with me, and I really, really appreciate the opportunity to just present this technology to you. If you're interested anyway, please feel free to call my office. I have a wonderful facility up in Norcross, and I'd love to meet you all on a one-to-one basis. So thank you for this time, and thank you, Dawn.
Do you have your information here?
Thank you.
I just wanted to point out one of the reasons I like this technology. One, you're in the office, it takes about an hour for her to run through everything. But in the end, you know how we're always, oh, I need some vitamin B, I need some vitamin D, or we're just randomly grabbing different supplements that we know that we need, but it might not be the right one for our body. And so, you know, MG is the snowflake disease. This helps us to see just how individualized we truly are and to get to that specific type of supplement that will help keep us in balance. And it's also good when she's testing you, she can also put your medications.
Yes, all of them.
All of your medications on this testing plate. And
with your doctor's approval.
Right, right. And so she does work in tandem, you know, with your physician. So that's a really, really good thing, because I just had this test done. Again, I do get it done periodically, but I just had it done again. I went with one of my girlfriends and found out some new stuff that was going on, and it just made me feel good, because you know your body and you know when you're kind of out of alignment, but it's sometimes hard to pinpoint exactly what's happening. And so that's why I'm glad that with something like this, it takes the guesswork out and you start to realize, okay, no, I'm not crazy. There is really something, and now I have a good protocol. You know, I thought the CBD was great, but you know, this is just amping me up even more. So thank you, Millie.
You're welcome, Dawn.
Can I just say, it's amazing. And I'm like, okay, so why aren't a lot of providers using this or directing you or you know, referring you to this? You know, I'm like, wow.
A lot of doctors, conventional doctors have
They don't, and
They don't
even,
wanna know.
right.
They know, but
right, but when you start being that example, I mean, I know all the different things that I've tried, the neurologist looked at me like I was crazy. You're gonna do what? This test showed, what? No, your thymus is fine. No, it's not. You know, but, you know, I had to wait months and months and months for it to show up in a manner that they would recognize, oh, you're right, you do have a tumor on your thymus. I didn't know it was a tumor, but I knew it was out of balance. So can we just look and see what's going on? So it's different things like that. And for us in the MG community, we all have all these different crazy things that happen that we can't explain. This is a great tool for that. And I don't work for Millie, so I'm just saying, you know, I've had it done with Millie, with other people. I'm personally trained to do it, but you know, she's like up here and I'm like down here in terms
No.
of it. So, you know, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Questions?
You use the word it. What is it? What does Millie do? What is your profession? What is
My profession, I'm a registered nurse.
Okay. But that's not, you've been talking about thousands of wires running to your hands
No, just two. Just two. Just these two.
that define your total condition. I'm trying to find out what is this?
So what it's reading your acupuncture meridians. That is what it is reading. Meridians. And these are pathways of energy. Remember we spoke about an EKG and an EEG that's reading the energy of your brain and your heart? But you've got energy to your liver, you've got energy to your spleen. So it's reading those energies and helping us determine the health of those organ systems.
But when you read an EKG, you check the heart,
Yes?
not the finger. All these things are
Well, no, when you're doing an EKG, where are you putting your electrodes? You're putting them on your wrists, you're putting them around the heart, but on the feet as well. So all of that's reading your heart.
but it's pumping blood all over your body.
It's not pumping blood.
Why do all these conditions terminate in your fingers?
Well, the Chinese found, how they did it, I don't know, but if you've ever had traditional acupuncture, you kind of can get a little feel for how the Chinese must have done it. They must have stuck needles in a little guy all over his body. But when you stick a needle in an acupuncture point, you can kind of feel it. I can feel it. You can feel it kind of goes, you know, and then when that needle comes out, you don't feel it anymore. You're, oh, it's time to get this needle out. Now, if you leave that needle in long term, you will drain energy from that acupuncture meridian. You know, so how the Chinese did it, I don't know. But they know that this point relates to your lymphatic system. This point relates to your liver. This point relates to your large intestine. This point relates to your central nervous system. So we use the traditional Chinese acupuncture points to evaluate, to get information. When I first started doing this, it took me a long time to trust that what I was doing was accurate. Because I wasn't trained in acupuncture. I was trained as an RN. You know, it was a little scary to me. But time and time again, I'd find pancreas bottomed out. I'd say, what's wrong with your pancreas? Oh, I'm a diabetic. I forgot to tell you. You know, oh, okay, that makes sense. You know, so time and time again, enough so that I began to actually have faith in what I saw. And, you know, I've been doing this 20 years now. So I know that what I am seeing is accurate because people get better. And that's all I'm interested in, is people getting better and leading better lives. Any other questions?
I have a, it's a question.
Thank you. Thanks, folks. Appreciate you inviting me today. As Dawn kind of mentioned earlier, I am an internal medicine doctor, and that essentially means I see adults, mainly, not really kids. And I am a holistic practitioner, which means I look at the whole person, the person as a whole, not just if you come in with a headache, here's your Tylenol, because we don't have Tylenol deficiencies. I mean, there are other reasons why people can have headaches, right? I also practice something called functional medicine. And in functional medicine, what we try to do is we try to figure out the cause of different chronic conditions. And getting back to the headache example, there are so many things that can impact a person having a headache. It could be socioeconomic. It could be some problem going on at home. It could be an environmental issue. So you kind of have to play, I guess what I do is I play CSI to try to figure out exactly what is really going on to cause your issue. And I try to do that in partnership with the patient. Because, I mean, in the end, it's your money. You should be more or less kind of running the show in terms of what it is you need, what you want, and that kind of thing. And having said all that, when we look at a patient with myasthenia gravis, like Millie was saying earlier, why do people get myasthenia gravis? And you said, well, you're not lucky. Well, yeah and no, but a lot goes into the reason why people have medical conditions like autoimmune problems like that. For instance, a lot of us live in societies that have our food source essentially being poisoned with things like Roundup. I'm sure a lot of you people know who or what Monsanto is. It's a big company that makes seeds where we get our, crops planted through. And a lot of these crops, a lot of these seeds are what's called Roundup Ready. What does that mean? That means they can spray Roundup to kill the weeds. That Roundup is then absorbed into your food, which you then eat, you ingest it. So who cares? What does that mean? Well, it could mean that your body is ingesting a product called glyphosate. Glyphosate is the active component of Roundup that just so happens can cause all kinds of gastrointestinal problems. It can cause neurologic dysfunction. It can cause chronic fatigue. It can cause arthritis, muscle problems, you name it. It may even have a hand in promoting the production of antibodies that can lead to something called myasthenia gravis. So that's one cause, that's one possible cause. The toxins that we're exposed to in our environment are, the list goes on and on. But it's something that we really need to be more cognizant of and not just blindly think that the food that we're getting is going to be automatically something that's not going to cause any problems. If you're not eating organic foods, you really should try. And I know a lot of you have seen that even some products that say organic on the label may not be truly organic, but you do what you can. You do what you can. And that also leads me to something else that you had mentioned earlier about vaccinations. Vaccinations can be another cause of chronic illness. We were talking earlier about the flu vaccine and how there are chemicals in our vaccines that can actually cause neuromuscular problems. There's a product in a lot of vaccines called thimerosal. Thimerosal actually has mercury. And mercury actually has been found, especially when we're using it chronically for multiple vaccinations, it can cause neuromuscular problems as well. So that's another possible, issue that could lead to something like an autoimmune condition. Also, when we're exposed to a lot of different foods that have, like I said before, pesticides, it can cause a lot of gastrointestinal irritation. And it's that gastrointestinal irritation that you've kind of heard a little bit about earlier already, but chronic irritation in that GI tract is what leads ultimately to problems with our immune system. Because guess what? The largest organ in our body that controls our immune system is our gastrointestinal system. Why is that? Because we take food outside of our body and then we bring it in internally, and our body has to do its best to take care of how we're able to break it down and assimilate whatever we're ingesting into vitamins, minerals, in order for us to have the energy to drive the enzymatic processes in our body to keep us alive. So that is something that I think is kind of like the theme for today, in terms of the fact that if you're getting food that can ultimately cause problems like inflammation on a chronic basis, that can probably maybe cause more issues with, I'll be with you in just a second, with issues with, inciting, kind of like what you were talking about, an ISIS type attack in your body. I mean, you have to really start looking at, what am I eating? Is your primary source of food KFC, McDonald's, anything like that? So the more important, the higher the importance that we give our gastrointestinal system, the better off we're going to be. And you had a question.
Two things. First, you said the flu vaccine can cause other issues. About how long after the vaccine would those issues pop up?
That's a good question, and the answer to that could be anywhere from immediately to many years down the line.
And the other thing is, I took food safety, and I don't know if you're familiar with ServSafe for the testing, but like the whole disease thing kind of scared me. Yeah, but then after watching some people cook, and let's just say they did a lot of things wrong with ServSafe, that just made me think that just gets our immune system kind of more versified, because it takes a lot more for people to get sick than you think. Do you get what I'm saying? So I see people touch raw chicken and then not wash their hands.
Yeah.
And then you just don't get sick. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, it even goes deeper than that. I mean, I've seen reports where this one guy in particular, I saw a report where he was doing an expose on farmers, potato farmers, who were actually being paid by McDonald's to make the potatoes for their French fries. And he said that they actually paid them to plant a specific type of potato that makes this bouquet-like presentation of your French fries. And it just so happened that this particular type of potato is susceptible to a specific type of parasite. There's only one type of pesticide that they found that was really best able to kill off this bug. And it just so happened that when they sprayed their fields, the potato fields, with this type of pesticide, they had to stay away from the field for at least or close to a week. Because if they got back in the field, they could basically die, at least get seriously ill. So they had to wait a week for all of the, pesticides to get out of the air and everything, and then they could get back into the field and start tending to the crops. So.
But I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah, and that's what you eat
Yeah, I mean,
when you eat potato,
but I'm not
the
disagreeing.
French fries.
I'm not disagreeing with you that the stuff like McDonald's and Burger King ain't
Healthy.
natural. if you wanna
Yeah,
put it that way.
yeah.
So you're wondering if it builds up a tolerance and if that's a good thing? Is that what you're basically asking?
No, I'm saying I think that whole watch what you eat is kind of over-exaggerated.
Well, watch what you eat in terms of what? Watch what you eat in terms of what's healthy versus not what's healthy.
Not
What's
that,
not
but,
healthy,
like,
or?
it can have like a bigger effect on the body, it can get you sick and stuff like that.
Oh, it's like he's talking about the microbiome. If we keep washing our hands,
Oh, okay.
we're going to, that we actually make ourselves less stronger.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point too, with antibacterial soap and that kind of thing, if that's what you're talking about. Yes, ma'am.
I'm curious if packaging affects anything, or what you maybe wash your vegetables off in, or what you're cooking in, like like a frying pan that has like non-stick. Does that stuff come into play, or say like deodorant, that you're putting on, in your pores?
Well, you're talking about 3 different things which can all affect your system, and they can all affect your body. I mean, Teflon can cause problems. The aluminum in underarm deodorant can cause issues as well. So, but the main thing, I guess my point that I'm getting at is there are a lot of causes, if you will, of autoimmune conditions, and quite a few have a lot to do with the fact that we live around quite a pretty much toxic environment. And we kind of have to, like Millie was talking about, we really have to be aware that those toxins are there, that they exist, and that can be a possible cause of why you may be having the condition that you have. Like we said before, the gut is the largest immune system organ, and the reason being is because we're exposed to a lot of outside toxins. And so the most important thing is to do things that help to, and I guess for want of a better word, rehabilitate your gut to keep it as strong as possible. And one way to do that is with the Interrogam. Another way is with probiotics that we talked about earlier. There are a lot of other supplements out there that you can take that do help improve your immune system. But also you were talking earlier about the fact that folks who develop food allergies, food intolerances, quite often can develop them because they're not able to break down their food very well. Maybe their pancreas isn't making enough digestive enzymes to break their food down properly. And if you are able to take one of Millie's evaluations, you might find that maybe you do need some digestive enzymes to help to break your food down so that you can digest it properly, so it won't cause as many inflammatory type reactions in your body.
Would that be a symptom of leaky gut syndrome?
That's exactly a symptom of leaky gut syndrome. That's right. That's right. And and those are a couple of ways to treat that.
What is leaky gut?
It's like, what the heck is leaky gut? So Yakal showed a video, which maybe we need to just go ahead and cue up right now. That might help people understand what it is. And a lot of it has to do with chronic exposure to toxic products that inflame the gut wall. And it's the gut wall that is where we are able to absorb foods, minerals, vitamins, that kinds of thing. And if we're exposed to a lot of inflammatory products, we lose that ability to absorb nutrients properly. And if that happens, you end up having problems with, in some cases, abdominal pain, bloating, chronic fatigue, joint pain, headaches, fibromyalgia in some cases, and actually, ultimately, in a lot of patient situations, autoimmune conditions. So what you want to be able to do is to rehabilitate the gut. Go for it.
Teragam, breaking the enteropathy cycle. Enteropathy is a disorder of the intestines which affects more than 50 million people in the United States. It's a cycle of
Enteropathy and leaky gut are pretty
include
much the
immune
same thing.
activation and inflammation, and gut barrier dysfunction, followed by impaired nutrient absorption. Patients with enteropathy often present with a number of symptoms, ranging from mild to severe. Enteropathy can occur with other disease conditions, including irritable bowel syndrome and HIV infection. Genetics, diet, stress, external antigens, and environmental insults are possible triggers for enteropathy. The enteropathy cycle starts in the gut when foreign antigens or toxins penetrate the epithelium of the small intestine to the lamina propria. Once below the epithelium, dendritic cells present antigens to lymphocytes. Mast cells may increase in number and migrate to the affected area, and pro-inflammatory cytokines such as IL-6 and TNF-alpha are released. The resulting inflammation may lead to epithelial cell damage and breakdown of tight junction proteins. As permeability increases, nutrient absorption may be impaired and overall fluid balance affected. Research has found that Interrogam, a specially formulated prescription medical food, can break the enteropathy cycle. Interrogam binds to the microbial components and prevents them from passing through the epithelial layer into the lamina propria. Fewer foreign antigens in the lamina propria may lead to a dampened immune response in the gut wall and the release of anti-inflammatory cytokines such as IL-10. Increased expression of tight junction proteins reduces permeability as gut barrier function and normalized nutrient absorption returns. Interrogam breaks the enteropathy cycle right where it starts and helps the small intestine restore immune balance and return the gut wall to homeostasis.
So this is saying,
Clear as mud, right?
right. I know. So this is saying that stress can cause GI problems?
Most definitely. It's one of the many things that can cause GI problems. Regardless of the type of stress, the way the body handles stress, the way the body looks at it, it doesn't matter what type of stress you're talking about, emotional stress, physical stress, mental stress. All those things cause a lot of stress. They create a lot of actually problems with the body being able to promote a normal adrenal gland functionality in the body. So what does that mean? Usually our adrenal glands are really good at helping us run away from stressful conditions or deal with stressful conditions. And over time, when we're exposed to whatever kind of stress is going on in our body, we actually end up burning out our adrenal glands. When that happens, it makes it really hard for us to be able to mount a decent immune response. So that's why a lot of times when you're sick, if you get sick, the first thing you want to think about is, well, what's been going on? A lot of times when people are going through a lot of stress in their lives, they're more susceptible to being sick, to catching some whatever infection, or maybe having a myasthenic crisis. So.
Doctor, do you recommend flushes? Like you see on TV, so like take this flush, you flush your body out for the impurities and all that kind of stuff.
What type of flush?
You know, you see that green stuff they mix up. You know, you see it, it's green and they mix it up and they said, you know, cleanse your body and all that kind of stuff.
Are you talking about, you know, there are a lot of products out there where they call them colon cleanses or liver cleanses.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. You know, there are a lot of products out there, and it really depends on which one you're talking about, because a lot of products that call themselves colon cleanses are basically just, you know, they're just laxatives.
Okay. You know, you see all the stuff and it says promote this kind of stuff, mix up this, and it's gonna do this and do that.
Now, don't get me wrong. There are some products out there that are really good for detoxifying the body, but, you know, the majority of the products out there that you see that are advertised as colon cleanses and things like that, all they do is make you have diarrhea. And so you think you're really having some kind of a detoxifying effect because you're pooping like 10, 12 times a day. But that's not really what's going on.
So there's no kind of vitamins that you really should be using to do any kind of...
Actually, there are a lot of really good products you can use to help yourself detoxify properly. And by detoxification, we're talking about promoting a healthy liver response, a liver response. So, because it's the liver, one of the liver's main jobs is to detoxify. And it does that in 2 phases. So, when we take things like, for instance, B vitamins actually do help us detoxify. Especially folate and B12. But there are some people who genetically aren't able to break down B vitamins. And so that means it's harder for them to detoxify. Well, you know, you can give them a shot, but they still may not be able to still break down the B vitamins into their active component. And so in that case, what a lot of folks in my line of business will do will suggest that you take something like a methylated B12 or a methylated folate product, which you can get at the health food store. And the methylation part is the reaction that helps to activate the B vitamin so that it can then do its job to help with detoxing the liver. So, yes, sir.
So, given that you've seen, hundreds of patients and things of that sort, and I imagine that you have kind of a general idea of some things that just, either lifestyle practices or supplements.
Boy, do I.
What would you consider the top 3?
Lifestyle changes?
Either lifestyle, practices or supplements that will either make a difference in humans in general.
Okay.
Or those with myasthenia gravis.
Which would, I guess that would include everybody, huh? Because like we were just talking about, I mean, really, I'm not sure what's going in you guys' minds when you look at stuff like this, these videos and stuff. It's like, okay, I don't understand why this gut stuff, why they're showing us this stuff, what does it have to do with myasthenia gravis? But it really has a humongous reason. And so, again, when we talk about probiotics are huge. They're very important because we need the good bacteria to help us detoxify, to help us maintain really good and healthy gut function so that our immune systems are working properly. So, number 1, I would say, is probiotics. And you want a good probiotic. You don't want, something that's got like one product in it. Because Millie Millie showed you on the screen, for a lot of people, you know, that one probiotic may not be what you need. So the type of probiotic you want to get is one that has several different types of colonies. So for instance, if you can get one that's got at least 10 different type of probiotic colonies in it, that's really good. That's really good. And you want to have enough of it, enough of them to make a difference. So my suggestion is always to try to go for at least 50 billion. And to try to take them twice a day. So in between breakfast and lunch, in between lunch and dinner. Okay? Probiotics always number one. Number two, I guess would be getting back to what we had just mentioned earlier about, as far as supplements are concerned, methylated folate and methylated B12. Because the better you're able to detoxify, the less problems you will have. People who have problems with detoxification, and by detoxification, I mean being able to handle exposure to toxic products, being able to handle exposure to, you know, significant infections. That's really what proper detoxification, you know, involves. And so if you can take a methylated B12, methylated folic acid, and you only need 1 milligram a day, you know, and you can get these at most health food stores. Another thing that you can definitely focus on taking is, you know, vitamin D, omega-3 fatty acids. Those are all very important. And last but not least, turmeric. Turmeric is a spice, but you can get it in a supplement form, and one of its many jobs is to decrease inflammation. And of course, you know, most problems are associated with inflammation. So anything you can do to decrease inflammation is really important. And so turmeric is important. If you can take at least maybe 500 milligrams twice a day of turmeric every day. Turmeric has also been found to decrease your risk of cancer. So the more the better. And if you want to cook with it, cook with it. Just make sure you cook it with black pepper. Because the black pepper is what helps to promote the active component, curcumin. All right. Yes, sir.
In commercials, it shows your liver, and when it's like not good, it's great, but then when you take the medicine, it turns red. Is that really happening?
Which commercial are you talking about?
I don't know.
You don't remember what commercial?
I don't remember what it's called.
You said there's a commercial and it looks at your liver and then it turns green or gray.
Your liver's great at the beginning when it's a bad liver, and then when you take it, it turns red.
I don't know what that is. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what product that is. I'm trying to think in my mind what commercial that is. I know, right? Well, let's talk about the liver. The liver, she said, or alcohol. The liver, like I said before, detoxifier, that's its job. And the more problems that we have with being exposed to toxins, whether it be alcohol or Imuran or any of the other medications out there, one thing I would suggest that you guys do is to take a supplement called alpha-lipoic acid. Alpha-lipoic acid is really easy to find, but it's been found to be extremely helpful to improve liver function.
So
And you-
Cellset, as well, take it if you're...
Oh yeah, anything that's going to adversely affect your liver, you want to take something like alpha-lipoic acid. Because, and you want to take about 200 to 300 milligrams 3 times a day if you can. What it does is it's been found to help keep your blood sugar under control, to keep it balanced, but it's also really important to liver health.
Are there any natural foods that you could eat that have that?
One food that's really helpful for liver function is dandelion root, but that's an herbal product that you can also get too. The one thing you want to remember too is if you're concerned about liver problems is to back off on anything that will affect your liver, like alcohol, no fun. And also, you know, Tylenol. The most common cause of, you know, having to get a liver transplant is Tylenol overdose. So Tylenol is bad juju, so don't take Tylenol if you can help it. Getting back to your question, though, about, you know, lifestyle, what else can you do? And kind of piggybacking on what you said about nutrition, green leafy vegetables, by far and away, have the highest amount of micronutrients of any type of plant, animal, whatever. And so there have been so many studies. Unfortunately, most of these studies were done in Europe and not really here because the money ain't there to do it here. But there's a lot of studies to show the benefit of eating a lot of green leafy vegetables that help to improve immune system function, that help to improve your immune system, but in a way that will decrease your risk of having infection, decrease your risk of developing cancer. Also help the body to heal the autoimmune issues that it's, you know, that you're having to deal with. There are a lot of people who, for instance, have been diagnosed, and even in my practice I've seen this happen too, with, say, lupus, give an example, where we found that they've had problems with food intolerances, problems with irritability in the gut from whatever they've been eating for a long period of time. Normally it's wheat products, dairy products, that kind of thing. Once we've identified what they're intolerant to or allergic to and get those out of the diet, interestingly enough, the allergies go bye-bye, and the autoimmune condition that they had, namely this one patient I can remember for sure, lupus, goes away. Now, can I tell you 100% that, you know, if you eat a plant-based diet that your MG is going to go away? There is no way in heck I'm going to tell you that. But could it improve the way you feel? Yeah. Could it maybe possibly help you decrease the number of meds that you have to take? For sure. Any way you can do that is always a blessing in my mind, because I feel like my job is to try to get people off medicine, not put you on it.
Success story.
Yes, sir.
I just heard you say, quote, don't take Tylenol.
Yes.
Quote.
Yes.
Did you really mean to say that?
Yes, I did say that. I'll say it again. Don't take Tylenol.
Why?
Because like I just said, one of the most common causes of liver transplants is Tylenol overdose.
What's considered an overdose?
Whatever it is that'll put you in the hospital and put you on the transplant list. I'm telling
What's the
you.
alternative?
Turmeric.
Okay, so I get
Turmeric.
I get what they call
Headaches?
ocular migraines or whatever.
Ah.
I mean, I don't get them often, but when I do, I as soon as I start seeing it, I pop a Tylenol and it goes away. And if I don't, I get a migraine, I'm throwing up, and all that kind of stuff. So.
And that's pretty much the way our society's become. It's like, okay, well, I got this, let me take this, and it goes away, and then everything's cool. But the problem is we've gotten to the point to where we're so... Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Pill dependent, yeah. So what do we do?
So I should carry
Well,
around some turmeric instead of my Tylenol that I
well, you're taking it twice a day, right? You're going to be taking your turmeric with breakfast, and you're going to take it with dinner.
I don't need.
That's going to decrease
Okay.
not your immune system, my goodness,
My headache.
decrease inflammation,
Okay.
right? And that's really what you're going to see a difference. The other thing you're going to do is you're going to increase your green leafy vegetables. You're going to increase onions and mushrooms in your diet. You're going to increase the natural stuff. You doing that?
We had mushrooms and onions last night.
Ah,
So did I.
every day.
My Chinese food.
That's really part of what needs to be your main, some main staples in your diet.
It's not gonna be instant now, but I did it.
Is there a homeopathic?
Well, I don't get them often. I don't get them.
There are homeopathic remedies that you can take for pain and other types of conditions. And like Millie was talking about, homeopathy has been around for a long time. As a matter of fact, homeopathy is a type of medicine, if you will, a therapy that has been used in Europe for quite a long time. The royal family actually utilizes homeopathy as their primary source of, medicine. And look how long they've been living. You can't kill them off. But yeah, the thing you want to try to focus on doing, and I guess this is more or less my message, is the cleaner you can eat, the better. And, do what you can. Nobody can eat perfectly. The 80-20 rule, that's right. But really, if you can try to focus on eating more green leafy vegetables, more of a plant-based diet. I'm not saying everybody has to be a vegetarian, but if you're not vegetarian, she's like, that's not going to happen. But if you can at least try to eat a green leafy vegetable once or twice a day, if you can eat mushrooms once or twice a day, it'll make a difference. You'll feel better.
Yeah, but mushrooms are bad for gout.
Well, it depends on how you cook them too, and it depends on which ones you eat.
Which ones?
Because if you can eat, some of the button mushrooms, and also your mushrooms need to be cooked. Because there are some people who think, they can get away with eating raw mushrooms, and that's not a good idea all the time.
What's that really big one? There is one.
The portobellos, yeah, those are good.
A person being on warfarin.
Or warfarin, yeah, they tell you not to eat green leafy vegetables, which is really too bad because the green leafy vegetables actually are a lot more healing. And the rat poison that the warfarin really is, it actually gets deactivated with vitamin K, which is what green leafy vegetables are full of. There are some, as far as, meds are concerned, there is a newer class of anticoagulant therapies out there, blood thinners. And you can talk to your doctor about changing to that.
Too expensive, they say.
Well, yeah, in a sense, maybe, but sometimes you can get around that. And, just ask them. Whenever you have a medication that is a branded name, if you go online and type in the name of that drug and then .com, you'll come to the website that talks about that drug. 9 times out of 10, there's going to be a coupon to give you a discount on that drug because they know their drugs are expensive. So that's one way that you can save some money on a lot of prescription meds, is to do that. Yes, ma'am.
Going back to the gut, is it normal to have to poop like maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes after you've had a meal? Is that a normal thing?
Actually, That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Now, if you're pooping 4 or 5 times after a meal, we need to talk. Because that may be a sign of a food intolerance. And quite a lot of people who have,
I am on methadone, so, okay.
then there you go. The Mestinon could do that too.
Go out. But, yeah, okay.
It's always a good idea to try to also look at foods that you may be intolerant to. Always look into that. Because more people have it than not and don't realize it. For instance, you mentioned you were having migraine headaches. What if there was some association between that and, I don't know, if you're drinking Crystal Light, if you're, drinking diet soda, artificial sweeteners have been linked to migraine headaches. There are a lot of people with food intolerances like, gluten intolerance. Definitely in my experience, I've seen a lot of folks have a resolution, disappearance of all the headaches that they've been suffering from for years as soon as they get off of food like that. So that's something to try.
Yeah, I've been trying to get off of the artificial sweeteners.
Ah, okay. Busted.
Oh, yeah. JJ's smoothie thing. Have you heard of the JJ's? Is it JJ Smith or JJ something? Advertising. It's just for your gut and flatten your tummy, and it's like a cleansing almost thing.
Oh, another cleanser.
Yeah. Have you heard of this?
Another
Well,
cleanser.
I don't know if it's a cleansing thing, but I know it's supposed to flatten your tummy and do all this other kind of stuff. So I don't know.
Me either. I'm not sure about that one. I don't know. But what?
J Herbs? Or
It's a woman, JJ.
I don't know that one.
Something. Very popular, I guess. It's been on TV and all that other kind of stuff. I think it's 10 days, yeah. 10 days thing.
Well, it's funny that we talk about wanting to get these products that are short term, but does that help you in the long term?
Right.
Because if you're taking something, and I guess it's supposed to, maybe it will detoxify, whatever. But then you go back to eating the same stuff you were eating before. How did that really help you?
Exactly.
It helped JJ.
And it helped all those people in the before and after pics. They actually look like the same people.
So, what you want to do, like he was talking about with lifestyle, it's lifestyle change. It has to be long term. Yes, ma'am.
Are we eating less vinegar than we used to?
Are we eating less vinegar?
Vinegar can slow down GERD and other problems like that, but I wonder, is it just not as much vinegar in our diets as it used to be in the old days?
I guess maybe so. Maybe you have a point there because there's a lot of people now are looking at things like apple cider vinegar as a benefit in digestion. And part of that goes back to what Millie was talking about with acidifying your stomach. There's been a lot of studies, a lot of research into people who are going around with not having enough acid in their stomach. And it's totally opposite of what you're being told on TV. When you go to the doctor or you look at TV, and what do they tell you? Oh, you got too much acid in your system. Oh, you need to be more alkaline in your stomach. Well, actually, that's not true. Yes, your body needs to be alkaline, but your stomach has to be acidic. In order for you to break down protein, in order for you to make vitamin B12 to help with detoxification, you have to have an acidic stomach. And there have been a lot of studies to show that decreased acid actually can lead to fatigue. It can also lead to food allergies. It can also lead to, guess what? Autoimmune conditions like Myasthenia gravis. There are studies that show that decreased acidity in the stomach can lead to that. So what do you do about it? Take a shot of apple cider vinegar twice a day.
It's so hard.
Eat sauerkraut or kimchi or kombucha. Yes, sir.
I have two questions. First, when you were here a few months ago, I remember you said a toothpaste to use that doesn't have fluoride. What's that again?
Oh, Tom's of Maine.
Let me just write that.
Yeah, fluoride is a bad thing.
It's called Tom's of Maine.
Tom. Yes. Yeah, yeah. Jason's is a good one. Yeah, Jason's is a good one.
Which one?
Trader Joe's. There you go, Trader Joe's. That's true, some do. But the thing to remember about fluoride is that, fluoride, when actually it first came out, was actually used in World War II to make weapons. And after the war was over, they didn't know what else to do, so somebody came up with a bright idea of using it in dental products. And we've been using it ever since. And the problem is that fluoride actually decreases the body's ability to utilize iodine. And iodine is important for thyroid function. Iodine is important for breast health. It's important for heart health and a number of other things. So any dental products that you get, please do not use any fluoride products.
Is that irreparable, or if you just change it, then you can?
For the most part, it's not irreversible. It is reversible. I guess when you're in school, if you looked at that periodic chart and you see all of the elements of the earth, iodine, fluoride, bromide, all of those things are on the same column, which means that those things can be used interchangeably in the body. You don't want to use fluoride at the expense of not being able to utilize iodine in your body.
The other question I have is, please don't yell at me, going back to TV.
I ain't gonna yell at you.
Dr. Oz,
Oh, Lord, not Dr. Oz. Oh. I want to yell at you, no.
I saw a description of a show. It was about you can decrease it's like based on your stomach size or stomach shape. There's a specific diet for each one to decrease your stomach. Is that true?
I have no idea what you're talking about. What do you mean? Was it Dr. Atkins?
No, it was on that Dr. Oz. I was just looking at the description of that episode, and it was like.
Was that an episode where he had a nutritionist or a dietitian?
I didn't watch it.
Oh man, come on! And you think I did?
Definitely not.
I do remember, I didn't see the episode, but I do remember seeing an article where he was working with, well, just so you know, bottom line, Dr. Oz doesn't know all this stuff by himself. He works with a lot of different doctors and other people to, I guess, find the most entertaining stuff to talk about. But he was, for a while, working with a dietitian who was selling this diet called the Big Belly Diet or something like that. And the diet was really high in dairy products and also wheat products. And so a lot of folks I had to get a lot of people off of that because a lot of these people had actually food intolerances and it actually made them sick. There are people who were developing like sinus infections because they were drinking so much milk and eating so much cheese and stuff like that. So the best diet that I've found that, and I hate to use the word diet, but if you're gonna do something differently to try to help kind of further your condition along or improve your system, or like everybody likes to say, jumpstart, try something called a food allergy elimination diet. And that's the kind of diet where, you're gonna hate me saying this, but whatever. You're gonna take away all of the foods that are more commonly associated with food allergies. So what is that usually? Okay. Soy, corn, wheat, dairy, eggs, and tree nuts. And you want to stay away from those things for maybe 2 or 3 weeks if you can. See how you feel. If you feel better, you've just diagnosed yourself with more or less a food allergy or food intolerance. And so to figure out which food it really is, what you can do is reintroduce a food group per week and see how you feel. So you can reintroduce dairy, for instance, and see how you feel. If you get migraine headaches, then obviously that's a sign of a food allergy. Take it out of your diet. The next week, reintroduce something else. Reintroduce wheat or gluten. See how you feel. And just keep doing that every week. And it's a great way to determine if you have food allergies or food intolerances. That's the way people determined, what they were allergic to before all these fancy, expensive lab tests came out. So, something to try. Any other questions?
All right, we have time for one
Yes,
more
ma'am.
question.
The immunosuppressants are known to lower the white blood count.
Oh.
And I have had that twice. I'm dealing with it right now. Is there anything nutritional or supplements or anything that would help boost besides taking another medicine?
Yeah.
Which is my option.
One thing you can do is to start taking vitamin D, as in David. D3, 10,000 units every day.
D3?
Yes, ma'am. 10,000. Jack it up. 10,000 international units a day. Well, I don't know about D4, but there's a D2 that a lot of physicians will prescribe. And it tends to be, well, it doesn't tend to be, it is an artificial product. D3, actually, you don't need a prescription for it. It's over the counter. You can get it at any health food store. It's more bioequivalent. The body tolerates it better. And it does a really good job in helping to stimulate the bone marrow to make red cells as well as white cells. So a lot of folks find that when they take more vitamin D, that actually helps their blood levels.
Is there a certain brand that would be better than others, or?
There's so many brands out there of vitamin D, it's ridiculous. But what you can do is go to the health food store. There's a brand called Now, N-O-W, which is a good brand. There's another brand, Pure Encapsulations. Another brand is, Biotech, they have a lot of good products, yeah. So there's so many of them out there. I mean, there are 100 companies out there that make vitamin D, so it's really easy to find.
What could you look for?
What can I what?
Like when you're looking for a brand or a supplement or a vitamin to take, what should you look for when you're looking at the label?
Well, don't go to Walmart, don't go to a grocery store, don't go to the drugstore, because a lot of these products, I mean, it may say 500 milligrams on the label and maybe have 2 milligrams of product in it, and then you're thinking it's not working when it's really the product itself, the company. You do want to find a good company that has a good reputation. One company that we've used a lot of has been Douglas Labs, another Pure Encapsulations. Millie can give you more suggestions as well.